Hi, guys, and welcome to another edition of The Big Shift. I've got an unbelievable story for you today of a guy a lot of people would say, I've talked to a lot of the guys, especially the New York guys, who would say that this family was certainly very, very, very central. And they was, in a sense, a kind of known as mob royalty. Coming next. Hi, guys. Welcome back. Today, we're going into the story of a family of the father, a very senior figure in the Gambino family, a very historic family, a real trigger man from back in the day, guys. Before we get there, I've got to say a big thank you to everyone who's going into the subscription model, www.stephengillen.com. You guys are getting the book in there, The Monkey Puzzle Tree. Of course, that's going to be a film. I have to say to you guys, look, there's another book coming. It's called Injustice, Love, and Honor. I'm going to talk more about that another time. But now we're going to get straight into the content. He's a really good guy, knows a lot of the friends and the people that we talk to. I've been waiting to get this guy on, a wonderful guy. Today, my guest is Anthony Ruggiano. Hi, Anthony. How you doing? Welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Hi, Steve. It's my pleasure. It's been a while.
Sammy as well, I could see, you would know obviously a lot more than me because you knew him in them days. He was a smart businessman as well. He had all them rounded skills. He could do all that, but he was a money getter.
Yes.
Some people can't do both, Anthony. You know that. When you get someone who does both, this is what it's all about.
Right.
Now he had an eye for business and he knew how to put business together as well, right?
Yes,
so,
yeah.
And for other people out there, just to put another little layer on that look, what I would say, certainly the way the dynamics are in a life of organized crime, certainly, even from what I know from my life, the dynamics of how this is put together are very, very fragile, but they need to be very strong. So when you get things that, the proverbial hits and you know what, right, you need someone stable who everyone likes to calm it down,
right,
so people can start talking again, exactly, right?
Exactly.
And start seeing sense,
yes,
right? Before, because sometimes it can go too far, of right?
Course, definitely.
And then that's bad, right?
Exactly,
so
yes.
This is what I would say as an easy explanation to that kind of thing. But look, going on after when John was saying, Sammy's saying, they're going to throw me under the bus. And we all know what's transpired after, and this goes on. It's a very treacherous life.
Yeah,
what's your view on that, Anthony? Without a doubt. What's your view on that?
On Sammy, what he did?
On Sammy, do you think he was right to do what he done? Do you think John was positioning him? He didn't care. He was throwing him under the bus?
I mean, from what I understand and from what I understand about the tapes and everything, probably Sammy was going to take the brunt of it. Sammy was going to take the brunt of it. And let me put it to you this way. My relationship, I got to explain a little bit about my relationship with John Gotti compared to Sammy's relationship with John Gotti. My father knew John Gotti since he was a kid, a teenager from East New York, Brooklyn. So my father always knew John when he was a 14, 15-year-old kid from his neighborhood. John Gotti and my father got proposed by the same man, Charlie Wagons. He proposed my father, and he proposed John. They got straightened out by the same person. So there's a connection there. So I was always friendly with him before anybody knew who he was. He always looked out for me. He even when I was wrong, he would always help me. He always helped me whenever I went to him for help. But he was the type of guy, he made comments. I'll chop your fucking head off. And he made comments about people, and that was just his nature. And what happened was the tapes were full of him bad rapping Sammy. Whether he meant it or not, he said a lot of things probably that he didn't mean, which we all do at times. We say things we don't mean. And when Sammy heard him bad rapping him, I think that's what turned Sammy around over the, that's what pushed Sammy over the cliff, was all these derogatory comments he made about Sammy, that everybody Sammy killed, he took over their companies. He's always coming to me to kill people. What does he want? He wants another business, and he was throwing a lot of zingers in on Sammy on these tapes. And I think Sammy took it to heart, and he did what he did, but that's who John was. That's how he was. That was how he talked.
Do you know, man, I was just reminded there, and I had to think about some of the things, even when I was in prison, and with them kind of dynamics, because we had our own groups in there as well. Obviously, you stay with,
right,
who you need to be with and all that. But there's one thing that was always you had to be good at, was the politics. Because the first thing is, right, look, they're not coming there, they're not even raising their hands. What they're doing is they're clever. They're putting it in. They're putting they're maneuvering you, so they're stripping you down. And when you're positioned like that, they're bad maths, and they've got a couple of guys are taking that and saying, and they find out who's with them and who's not. I used to say a funny thing, even like, but others say, he's ripe for picking, right?
Yeah, of course.
And all that kind of shit. But I've got to be honest, that mindset, in the cold light of day, people don't understand this.
Right.
And when you're isolated, then really you're in trouble. This is when you're really in trouble.
Of course.
So this is how it starts, right?
Definitely, without a doubt.
Without a doubt, right? So that was what was going on there as well. And you go right for the jugular. People, they go for the jugular. They feed into other people's insecurities about them, greed, all of this stuff. Right, Anthony?
Without a doubt. And even when John, even when John was home, he was like, he was doing things that people didn't like then too. Like he was signing autographs. I mean, here's the boss of a family. He's in, and I was with him in restaurants, and I saw it with my own eyes. People would walk up to him and ask him for his autograph, and he would give them his autograph. People
didn't like that, Anthony, did they? No, a lot of guys, they didn't like that, right?
No, and his response his response was, the public loves me, and he actually believed, because he told me that he actually believed that would save him, that the worst he would ever get was a hung jury, because the public loved him. That's why he did that.
I mean, I have to say, for a man who was obviously very, very talented, right? That's backwards. That is backwards, because this is why they're not going to stop now, by any means, until they close that circle. All right, you know what I mean?
The government hated him. When I went, my father was in prison at the time. When I went to visit my father, and I told my father, I had lunch the other day. It was John Gotti, Joe Watts, Tony Lee, and myself. The four of us. I drove Tony Lee to a luncheon with them, and I said, so I was having lunch the other day with John. We used to say that guy. I said, I was having lunch the other day with that guy, and my father knew that was John. I said, and you believe this young couple walked up to him, up to the table, and asked him for his autograph, and my father said he gave it to them. I said, yeah. He goes, what is he kidding? My father, like,
film star. Film star.
Yeah, what is he kidding? Signing autographs, and that's what he did. That's what he did. But like I said, he was always good to me. He always treated me well.
Angelo, people in that life, look, I mean, we're going to get to that, because, we should, I know the environment, and we're pushed and we're shaped and we're groomed and all of this stuff, but we still have our choices as men, right?
Of course.
And anyone would say about John, they'd say, you can say what you want, but it's very clear he was a man's man.
Oh, right.
And he played the role. He stuck to that, and that was
you
can't take that away from him, right?
No,
so all these people, they come to try and chip away. This is what people do, and twist stuff, right? But it is what it is, right? And you have to give him that. Not that I agree with that life, Anthony. I don't.
Right,
I've been all the way through it. I've transformed my life.
Yes.
But I had to go through so much of that as well, and lost everything so much until I had a chance to know there was more, Anthony. There was more than that.
Right. Listen, I always tell people, my father loved being Fat Andy, and John Gotti loved being John Gotti. They were never going to stop. They had no intention of, they loved that life. That's all they believed in. That they believed in it with their heart and soul. And even today, there's still guys running around out there now. I hear rumors they're 80 years old. You know, guys my father groomed, like Nicky Carrazza. My father straightened them out. He's still out there. He's at 80. You know, stay home with your grandchildren. They just love the life. It's an addiction. They get addicted to the life, the power, the respect, and they're not going to stop. I know my father lived that life to his last dying breath, and John did the same thing. Are they success stories? I don't think they were. At the end of the day, I mean, look how they died. My father died. He had nobody left. He was lonely. John died chained to a bed. I mean, who wants to wind up like that?
How successful is that? I mean, I'm reminded as well, Anthony, when I think of all of my friends, and these guys are talented. They could have been good at anything they'd done. They was strong. They had a wit. They had smarts. They was there was a force of nature. These guys, they could have done anything they could have put their hands to, but they're sitting in prison and they're never ever going to come out again.
Exactly.
I'm reminded, and there are so many. And then I think, do you know what as well is that you get so regimented into that lifestyle that, I mean, I remember even with me many years ago, I didn't know anything else, Anthony.
Right.
I didn't know anything else.
The same with me. I mean,
at that point,
literally, the same with me. Literally, I was born into it. When my father became a made member of the mafia, the same year I was born, he used to say that was the best year of his life. He became a member and he became a father the same year. So literally, wise guys changed my diaper. So that's all I knew. I was never around any of all my male, all the people that I was around, all the male figures were all wise, all in the mob. My father's crew, my godfather, even my wife, my first wife, her grandfather was a wise guy. My first wife was a Mayoni. Her uncle was Happy Mayoni. He was a Murders Incorporated. That's all I knew. I was raised in bars. When I was 16 and I got suspended from school, I told my father said, "What do you want to do? You want to go work on construction?" I said, "No, I want to work for you because you want to work for me." And he told me, "You could work for me, but remember, going to jail is all part of the job. You ready for that?" And I said, "Yeah." And the next day, he put me to work in a blackjack game. I didn't have my first legitimate job till I was 50 years old. So I know. I mean,
so look, I get that. I really do, Anthony. Like I say, I've talked to a lot of guys, and your family was right in the center of it. Yeah. So I'm going to go on to some other content, because I like to, what I do when I'm talking to guys is I like to get to the truth, Anthony.
Yeah.
And I like to, because there's so much smoke and mirrors out there, and it's not about that, right? And there's no learning in that for no one. There's no mileage in that for no one, right? No. Apart from idiots, right? Yeah. So look, we're trying to just get some facts here, right? Yeah. So look, John Alite well, right? I mean, I interviewed you before. I was interviewing John, and you was there. And there's a lot of guys around. Tell me about your relationship with John and how it was with John in the old days when, when you was growing up.
When he was a young kid, he was a very good my brother Albert was a really good athlete, really good. He was a boxer. He was a very, very talented baseball player, very intelligent man. St. John's University, Dean's List, very smart. He winded up being John's baseball manager, coach, when John was a teenager. We already knew John's father. John's father knew my father. John's father was always in the racetrack, and I knew John's father from the racetrack. He used to love to bet horses, so I already knew the father. And then the son, John Alite, was a very good ball player, and he was on the traveling team, which was the betting, like the all-star team, and my brother was their manager. So he was always in and out of my house. My brother was his manager. They won a couple of championships together, and he actually had a very good opportunity, John, to become a professional baseball player, but then he got hurt. In the interim, he had met John Jr.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this because look, there's been a lot of toing and froing, but I know, Anthony, you're someone who was there, and you know what's what and what ain't about this. What's your view on what's gone on between them two guys? Now, bearing in mind, I'm just before, because I know you've got all the lowdown on this. Right. You go right the way back to knowing John's father, as your father did. Right. So you was there all the way through, right?
Right. When he started hanging around with John Jr., my brother actually told him, stay away from him. It's because he was actually with us at that time. My brother told him, stay away from him. I was in prison at the time. My brother told him, stay away from him. He's no good. He's going to get you jammed up. Stay away from him. But John didn't listen because it was a Gotti. He had the name, the father. John wanted in. John wanted into the mob. He liked the lifestyle. He was impressed by it. He says it all the time. He and he wanted it. And he wanted in, and he figured that was his best road in. So he got hooked up with John. He started making money with John. Actually, when I got out of jail and I found out he was running around with John Jr., I told my brother, how did you let this kid escape? He was with us. Now he's with them. What did you do? I got mad at my brother because he sort of let John escape to them, because John became a good earner. And they were close. They were close when they were kids. They were close. They baptized each other's kids. They were always together. But then it started getting, they started separating, and the kid got straightened out. He became a captain. He's sort of staying away from John. John was selling the drugs, but he was still taking his money. And now, my opinion of the whole thing, and when I speak to John, the truth hurts. And John is telling the truth about them, and they don't know how to handle it. So they have a big resentment. And they're attacking him. They're trying to attack him, trying to shut him down, because the truth hurts. The truth hurts. I mean, we know where the bodies are buried. We know, the skeletons in the closet, because we all grew up together, and they don't like it. They haven't, like John Jr. got found not guilty, got a hung jury. He was, I know for a fact, 99.9% of that indictment he was guilty of. But yet he walked out of court, which, all right, that's fine. But John didn't make none of that up. John Alite didn't make none of that up. And the truth hurts, and now they're attacking him for no reason, because they don't want the truth to come out about who they are and what they do. And, their father's, like I said, going back to the father, he was always good to me. I have not a bad word to say about him. He always looked out for me and my family, but he was who he was, and they try to make him a saint. He wasn't a saint. He was a murderer. He was a womanizer. He was a drug dealer. But to them, they want to blow it up like he's a saint. And John is telling, and Alite tells the truth. And I think it just bothers them.
Look, it's obvious, Anthony, within these things that there's a lot of truth, and there's smoke and mirrors too.
Yes.
But, and this is why I asked people who was there all the way through, what is your view? What people take from that is up to them. There's no judgment. They're entitled to their opinion, which is always, what I say. Right. But when you get some people who are spinning it all the time and attacking, this is something else. Right. So, I like a few facts here. Right. So, thank you for that. So, even now, so what you're saying is, in a way, I mean, I get that. So John was easy target, right? Yeah. He was an easy target because he turned around. So, he's trying to make his way, but really, he was an easy target, Anthony.
Yeah. I mean, and John, the kid Johnny Alite, he was a killer. He was out there. He was out there making money, taking care of business. John had his hand out all the time, Junior. He was his partner with the drug business and whatever else they were doing. And, it is what it is, and at the end of the day, John did what he did. John profited. He denies it. We know he did. He knows he did, but he denies it. And that's the resentments. That's the beefs he has.
So look, coming to this point now.
Yeah.
And this is why I started. We went a little bit further about the real historic guys who your father grew up with,
right? And
how it wasn't, because it's changed a lot now, obviously. Right. And the history is there.
Right.
So what do you think of that life now? What do you think changed it, apart from, no more honor, if you want to call it that? People standing beside each other, really, is a different way to saying it. What would you think it was that started to change this life, Anthony?
I that's a great question. So in the beginning, and when my father was young, when my father was in his 20s coming up, to get straightened out, you had to do work. You had to commit a murder. You couldn't get straightened out back in that day before 55 without committing a murder. That was the rules. That's what it was all about. In 55, it changed. They started straightening out guys that had a lot of money, that were well liked, and the philosophy changed. Moving forward, you got to understand, my father's era and before my father, these guys grew up in poverty. They grew up during the Depression. My father used to eat pigeons. They had no money for meat. They had a pigeon coop. They used to eat the pigeons. Later on in life, middle class people, like I'm middle class, right? Later on in life, the guys that started getting straightened out didn't come up like my father. They never had to eat pigeons. They never had to kill anybody. You know what I mean? They were businessmen. Just the mentality of the person that became a wise guy changed. And then drugs, then they started breaking the rules with the drugs. They started selling the drugs, getting a lot of time. And then it just went to shit. But I think it has to do with the way people were raised. They were softer than my father was. My father, the way he was raised and the way John's family were dirt poor when he was a kid. They had no money. His father had no money. His father, John, they were dirt poor. My grandmother had 8 kids with no husband. Later on in the 60s, the 50s, and that's why Carl closed the books. After Carl became the boss in 56, 57, where after Albert got killed, Carl closed the books for a decade. They didn't get opened again until Carl Gambino died in 71. So for 11 or 12 years, nobody got straightened out because Carl knew what was going to happen. That's why he didn't want to do it. And it did happen. And my father told me, the last conversation I had with my father was in Elmira State Penitentiary. I was doing a bid in the end of 1998. And my father had got home from prison and he came to visit me. And we were in the visiting room. And he told me, listen, I'm opening up an import-export fruit business with some guys from Philly, with some wise guys that he was friends with from Philadelphia. He said, it's going to be for you when you come home. I said, for me? What am I going to do? What do I know about selling fruit? I said, why are you doing that? He says, because this life is all over. I said, what are you talking about? He says, we had 2 things going for us. Everybody feared us and nobody talked. He goes, now nobody fears us and everybody's talking. He said, it's over. And the RICO. And that's that.
That's well said, Anthony. It really is. You know, you said that very, very succinct. It's the best way I've heard it said. Yeah. Thanks for that. Look, I want to let's tell us about the painting in the back. That's your father.
Okay, right. Tell us about the painting. There's a great story to that painting. All right. So many years ago, I was in John Gotti's house in Howard Beach, and I'm in his house and I'm in his living room, and he had these portraits on his wall of his family. And I said, John, those are really nice portraits. You know, who did them? And he told me, he said, he goes, well, I was away with this guy that was a counterfeiter and he became a portrait artist. So he said, I gave him pictures and he made portraits out of these pictures, you know, photographs. I said, really? So I had a little black and white picture of that in my wallet that I used to carry around with me. Because that's actually in my grandmother's yard. And I had a little black and white picture in my wallet. So I took out my wallet and I says, you think he could do anything with that? And he goes, I don't know, give me the picture. So I gave the picture to John. About a month later, he sends for me and I go to the Bergen Hunt and Fish Club on 101st Avenue. And I walk in the club and he says, here, this is for you. And he gives it to me and it's wrapped up. And I took it home and that's what it was. So it's been hanging. That was about 40 years ago. I have that about 40 years ago because my son wasn't born yet and my son's getting ready to turn 38. So it's about 40 years old. Yeah, it's been hanging on my wall. Yeah. Wow,
it's a great story.
Yeah.
It's a great likeness, by the way, as well.
My father was just straightened out in that picture. He was 26 years old and my mother is actually 19 and pregnant with me in that picture. It was in the summer of the summer of '53. I was born in October of '53. Yeah.
There's some history, really.
Yeah.
Look, so now, look, I want to ask you, Anthony, because, right, we've talked about that life and there's a lot of that out there. But look, I've had to change my life. I know that you've changed yours, right? You've had to transform your life.
Right. Tell
us how you've done that and what you think of this life now. Because, I want to get into the good stuff as well, right. The real stuff for other people. So they have the real stuff, and they've got the other parts of what right. this life brings. So there may be some learnings in there.
Right.
Anthony.
Well, the last time I was in prison, in before I went away, my father's partner died, Tony Lee. He passed away. He was like a second father to me. I had a little bit of a drug problem through the years. With cocaine, and I went into treatment. I went into treatment, and I'm clean. I'm clean now, almost 33 years. I haven't had a drink or a drug in 33 years.
Yeah. I'm 12.
Oh, congratulations! Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
So there'll be another lot. The rest of it doesn't matter. But right. Over, finished, right?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So I went into treatment. I got out, and so he passed away. I went away, and he passed away. And then my father passed away in 1999. And then right after that, John Gotti passed away. So the three central figures in my life that I loved all passed away. When my father died, they took everything from me. They took everything. They stopped sending my mother money. They took all our whatever illegal monies we had coming in. They took it. The family took it. They were sending for guys that were bringing my father money every month and telling them to bring them the money, the family the money. And I started saying I just started getting turned off to the whole lifestyle. The three men I loved were all gone. I started getting turned off to the lifestyle, and I was working on myself. I was in a 12-step program, so I was working on myself, and I was seeing a lot of stuff about myself, and I sort of got some faith. I didn't become a holy roller or nothing like that, but I did, get with a God of my understanding, Christ, and I started, and I had a wife, and I had 2 kids, and I just realized what the life was about. That here, my kids would cry when they came to visit me. But, and I got out in '04, and I went to work. I went to work for the first time, and I saw how, that I did have, I saw a different world. My daughter used to say I was the smartest person she met, and I never, I guess I was. I just had no direction. My father directed me in the wrong way, my father gave me wrong, my father, I had an argument with my father once, because my father wanted me to kill somebody, and I told him no, and he got mad at me. These are the conversations I had with him. So I just started changing inside, and but I was still out there. I was still going to get straightened out because I didn't want anybody to catch a delusion on me. Then I had gotten arrested. I got arrested in '05 for a murder. I got arrested for a murder, for a RICO, a murder that happened in the 1988. My brother-in-law. My brother-in-law disappeared. I got arrested for a murder, and nobody helped me. Nobody helped me. And about a year into the case, a lawyer called me that found something that could help me, that found something that they needed some information over a motion. This was a really high-end criminal attorney, a mob lawyer that was really good friends with my father, loved my father, and this attorney was looking to help me, and they called up my co-defendant, Skinny Dom's attorney, and asked for some information, and he refused to give it to them because he said if he gave it to me, they couldn't use it at trial. But me, I wanted to use it in a pre-trial motion because it was really beneficial to me, and they wouldn't give me the information. So this attorney told me, listen, I'm going to tell you something that you need to do. You need to call the government because these people are looking to hurt you, that they're going to throw you under the bus. But I still couldn't do it. I would pick up the phone and I would hang it up. And I would pick up the phone and I would hang it up. And then I had a conversation with somebody to call the government. And I said, I can't disrespect my father like that. And the guy told me, listen, Your father's dead. You did everything for your father. You've been in the street since you're 16 years old. Nobody's looking to help you. It's a different world out there. And I still couldn't do it. I actually gave the card to my wife, and I told her, when you get to work, call this number and tell this guy to come to the house. And she went to work and made the phone call, and they came to the house, and that was it. You know, I surrendered. I gave it up. I just didn't want to live that life no more. I mean, listen, I spent almost 14 years in prison. I've been in the street my whole life, you know, and I say today, the guys out there, they're not even criminals. I was a criminal. My whole world, my whole life, I committed crimes from the morning until the night. These guys out there today, they're not even criminals. I don't know what they're doing out there. These kids that are getting straightened out today. It's just a different world. The mob is a different world, and the Albanians are pushing them out. The Russians are pushing them out. It's not like it was when I was a kid, in the 70s, the 60s, the 70s, even the 80s. It's just not that way no more. And I just saw a different side of it. I saw a side of it that turned me off.
Anthony, look, thanks for all the inside historic information on your family and a lot of stuff back in the days, you know, especially about a lot of very historic and very current figures. Now, I know there's a lot of really raw, really exclusive content in there, which if people look and listen, will clear up a lot of stuff. You know, I wish them to go in there. They're entitled to their own opinion. But look, Anthony, thanks for coming on. We're definitely going to get you back on, you know, and I wish you very well in your life now going forward. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Steve. And it'd be a pleasure to come back on. Have a great day. Stay safe.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Make sure to subscribe, like, go into stephengillen.com and sign up for more wonderful content to expedite, help, and support you on your own personal journey of success.